It's confirmed. After years of speculation and rumour, Creative Assembly unveiled Total War Warhammer 40k at the Game Awards last week, and they brought David Harbour in to do it. Hopper from Stranger Things, Notable's 40k superfan, introduced the trailer and voices a character in the game, an unnamed character they're keeping under wraps for now. That should tell you how seriously Creative Assembly views this project. The game launches with 4 factions: the Space Marines, Orcs, Eldari and the Astra Militarum. Chaos Space Marines are missing, which has people asking questions. Creative Assembly addressed this in their FAQ, stating that they're part of the plans along with every other major faction people expected to see. This is being built as a platform for years of content development following the same model as Warhammer Fantasy. Whether that's reassuring or concerning depends on tolerance for extended DLC roadmaps. The technical foundation here is significant. This runs on a completely new engine called Warcore, not the Warscape engine that powered every Total War game since Rome 2. We covered Warcore in detail last week, so go watch that video for more information. They're building systems designed specifically for 40k's requirements instead of forcing Space Marines into frameworks built for medieval cavalry. It also means preparing for optimization problems because new engines always have growing pains, and Creative Assembly's track records includes Rome 2's disastrous launch. Release timing sits somewhere in 2026 with no specific date. They're starting their proper marketing campaign in the spring with detailed gameplay reveals. The game launches simultaneously on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox, marking the first time Creative Assembly has brought a mainline Total War game to console at launch. The campaign map represents the biggest departure from traditional Total War design. Instead of a landmass with territories and rivers, the map shows a galactic view with individual planets connected by set routes. Think Stellaris or Sins of a Solar Empire. The view zooms from galaxy down to individual planets, then to hive cities and specific battlefields. Traditional Total War campaign maps have inherent geographic strategy. Mountains create defensible positions, rivers form natural boundaries. A galaxy map with point-to-point planet connections operates on fundamentally different strategic principles. Without traditional geography, different systems are needed to create strategic texture, and the pre-alpha footage doesn't show what those look like. The battle UI draws comparisons to Dawn of War 4. Unit cards use similar visual language, the interface design sits in the same aesthetic space. When battles look substantially similar to another 40k RTS launched around the same time, clear separation in how they play becomes necessary. Scale provides differentiation. Total War handles hundreds of units in massive engagements while Dawn of War focuses on smaller squad tactics, but the visual language needs to feel distinct. Creative Assembly is investing heavily in customization options. The trailer showcases extensive chapter customization for Space Marines including colours, heraldry and iconography. They're marketing this as tabletop freedom. Players can personalise armies, name warbands, choose colours, modify warrior loadouts and tailor faction combat philosophy with abilities, traits and war gear. The footage shows multiple custom Space Marine chapters that don't correspond to official Games Workshop design, confirming the system isn't locked to established chapters. Whether this applies equally to all 4 factions or focuses primarily on Space Marines remains unclear. Orbital bombardments and exterminatus are confirmed. The FAQ explicitly states players can unleash apocalyptic weaponry to erase entire planets from existence. Fleet management integrates into the campaign layer based on visible UI elements. Ground battles feature dynamic destruction where terrain deformation from weapons fire creates new cover positions during battles. Blood and dismemberment come included in the base game with no separate DLC requirement. This represents a policy change from their previous approach of selling blood effects separately, which consistently generated criticism. Pre-order bonuses exist but won't lock faction content behind pre-order requirements. 4 factions at launch feels light. Major factions like Chaos Space Marines, Tyranids and Necrons missing from the initial release will frustrate people whose favourites aren't included. The 40k setting has dozens of factions with devoted fan bases, and everyone whose faction isn't there will feel that absence. Creative Assembly is making a substantial bet here. Galactic scale strategy, new engine technology, simultaneous console launch and extensive customization systems. The 40k license represents probably the largest license they could work with in gaming, with the potential for long-term DLC support is essentially unlimited given Games Workshop's catalogue. The scale of opportunity brings proportional pressure. If this doesn't work, it's having Warhammer 40k and failing to execute on it. The concerns are straightforward: unproven campaign map system, visual similarity to Dawn of War 4. The new engine guarantees technical problems at launch. 4 factions disappoints. These follow pattern recognition based on how Creative Assembly has operated historically. We'll learn more when the marketing campaign starts next year. Until then, keeping expectations measured and waiting for detailed gameplay demonstrations seems wise. 11-bit Studios launched the Fractured Utopias DLC for Frostpunk 2 last week, expanding the Utopia builder mode with faction-specific content while simultaneously pushing Frostpunk 1886 back to 2027. The DLC represents a year of development shaped by player feedback following the base game's release. Fractured Utopia centers on making the 8 existing factions feel distinct in Utopia builder mode. Previously, these factions existed in the game but lacked the mechanical depth to make choosing one over the other feel meaningful beyond surface differences. The DLC addresses this by giving each faction its own skill tree, unique buildings, faction-specific hubs, and exclusive abilities that unlock as favour is earned with the chosen group. The redesigned main menu now allows forcing the start faction instead of having to leave it to chance. Each faction plays differently enough that cities evolve to reflect the philosophy of whichever group gets aligned with at the start. Technocrats pushing cutting-edge innovation, legionnaires build disciplined militaristic societies, the other 6 factions follow their own distinct paths. Advancing through the faction's skill tree requires completing actions that earn favour with that group, creating a gameplay loop where choices reinforce the faction identity selected at the start. Faction traits provide passive bonuses that affect city stability and productivity, meaningful mechanical distinctions that change how the game's core challenges get approached. The DLC includes 8 new faction-specific hubs and housing district variants, so cities look visibly different depending on which faction was chosen. This visual differentiation reinforces the mechanical differences, making each playthrough feel genuinely tailored to initial choice. The expansion also includes over 100 new events and additional laws that interact with faction-specific content. Events in Frostpunk have always driven the narrative tension, forcing decisions with consequences that ripple through city development. Adding 100 more events specifically designed around faction identities mean the game can respond to choices with content that reflects the path being taken. Base game owners get a free content update alongside the DLC launch. This includes an additional map and centrist policies for existing laws, expanding options for players who don't purchase the DLC. The update introduces Tales, which 11-bit Studios describes as narratively framed gameplay twists that explore how ideology holds up under extreme pressure. These are modular challenges that can be enabled in any combination, even activating all of them simultaneously for maximum difficulty. Tales were designed to be mixed and matched, adding unique angles to playthroughs depending on which ones were enabled. The DLC launched during 11-bit Studios' digital showcase, where they also revealed the development update for Frostpunk 1886. The game was originally scheduled for 2026 but has been pushed to 2027. Frostpunk 1886 is a reimagining of the original Frostpunk. Delaying it by a year suggests either scope expansion or development challenges, though 11-bit Studios hasn't specified which. The Fractured Utopias expansion addresses one of Frostpunk 2's structural limitations at launch. The Utopia builder mode had the framework for faction diversity, but lacked the mechanical depth to make those differences feeling meaningful during gameplay. Players could see the factions existed and had different ideologies, but choosing to build a technocrat Utopia versus a legionnaire society didn't fundamentally change how the game played. This DLC makes faction choice the central pillar of playthroughs. Defcon Zero Frontlines of Tomorrow is a new RTS from Triarch's games that pulls heavy inspiration from Command & Conquer. The team consists of RTS veterans who want to mix classic RTS gameplay with modern features. This is the pitch every RTS developer makes when targeting the fans of 90s era strategy games. The question is whether the execution backs up the pitch. The game follows traditional RTS structure: base building, resource gathering, enemy engagement, and strategic choices to win battles. Battles are slow and thoughtful according to the developers, with units capable of handling multiple jobs through a weapon priority system that automatically selects the best tools for each situation. This suggests units won't be locked into single attack types but can adapt to threats dynamically, which could add tactical depth or become a micromanagement headache depending on implementation. Cover plays a significant part in combat effectiveness. Soldiers survive longer when positioned behind walls, objects or inside buildings, which means positioning becomes more important than raw unit composition. A day-night cycle affects unit vision, detection range and combat effectiveness, adding another layer to tactical decision making. Whether this creates interesting strategic choices or just becomes an additional variable to track won't be clear until we see extended gameplay. There's no release date announced. The gameplay trailer dropped last week showing pre-alpha footage, which means the game is still in early development. Triarch hasn't committed to any timeline, so 2026 or later is probable given where they appear to be in the development cycle. The Command & Conquer inspiration is explicit, which sets clear expectations about what kind of RTS this wants to be. Base building, resource gathering, unit production and combined arms combat form the core of CNC, and Defcon Zero appears to be following that template while adding modern systems like dynamic cover and day-night cycles. Whether this feels like an evolution of classic RTS design or just nostalgia bait with updated graphics remains to be seen. Look forward to an interview with the developers on the Critical Moves podcast in the new year, where we'll get more details about their vision for the game. Broken Arrow gets a free specialisation DLC in early 2026 called Baltic Battalion. This adds a new army specialisation to the US faction representing the combined arms of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. European weaponry, sophisticated infantry formations and next-generation vehicles designed for layered defence and quick reaction combat. Steel Balalaika announced this at the Slytherin Next event and confirmed a livestream on January 27th covering the roadmap and upcoming content. Black Lab Games revealed their 2026 roadmap for Warhammer 40k Battle Sector. The Ultramarines arrive as a full playable faction, and a new narrative campaign expands the Battle Sector universe with fresh missions, characters and strategic depth. A new faction DLC drops in winter 2026. After years of expansion, seeing the poster boys of 40k finally getting their turn seems overdue, but at least they're filling that gap. Stardunk released version 1.5 for Sins of a Solar Empire 2 this week, titled the Diplomatic Repercussions Update. The diplomacy system got overhauled, so AI players now consider multiple factors when choosing partners, and players can trade influence and items. New quick start options let players jump into mid or late game stage instead of starting it from scratch every time. The AI reacts more dynamically to changes throughout matches. The economy got rebalanced to move more activity into orbit instead of planets. Research pacing was adjusted to lower requirements for reaching higher tier technologies. Full changelog is available on their site. That's all for this week and for this year. We'll see you in the new year. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Goodbye.